After 42 years at Meridian Technologies, I believed I understood every aspect of the company, the systems, processes, and faces in every department. However, while standing in the grand ballroom of the Westbrook Hotel and hearing my son Marcus announce that he'd borrowed my pension, I realized I had overlooked something vital: the potential for family betrayal. Dads have always emphasized the importance of family investments, Marcus said, raising his champagne glass. As the room of 200 employees fell silent, even the waitstaff paused, sensing the tension crackling in the air. My wife Susan squeezed my hand under the table, her fingers trembling. I kept my smile, decades of corporate training helping me maintain a neutral expression as I watched my retirement fall apart in real time. Behind Marcus, my daughter-in-law Jennifer smiled with practiced charm, their family portrait completed, by my uninterested teenage grandchildren glued to their phones. My focus, however, was on James Morrison, Meridian's CEO, who sat at the head table watching the scene unfold with a look I had never seen in 30 years of working with him. "A toast," Marcus called out, raising his glass higher to family investments and new beginnings. The room responded with awkward, scattered applause, as I overheard whispers from nearby tables questioning whether he had really taken his father's pension and if that was even allowed. Just 4 hours earlier, I was in my office clearing out. 42 years of memories, photos from system launches, team celebrations, and our public offering. My retirement package was substantial, totaling $1.8 million in pension funds, plus stock options I'd carefully built up since the IPO. Marcus had come by while I was packing, asking unusual questions about the pension disbursement timeline. I should have recognized the signs, but even after 3 failed business ventures and countless temporary loans, I still trusted him. "Just one more thing, Dad," he had said while hovering in the doorway. "You'll back me up at the party, right, when I make the announcement?" "What announcement?" I asked, but he just smiled that confident smile that always preceded disaster. "You'll see. It's brilliant. Trust me." Those words had cost me $40,000 during his attempt to launch a craft brewery and another $75,000 for his revolutionary app that never made it to market. But this was different. This was my retirement, carefully planned and meticulously saved. Or so I thought. Now, watching him stand at the podium in an expensive suit, likely purchased with my money, I did the math. My pension was set to be deposited tomorrow. The papers were signed and the transfer was scheduled. I discreetly pulled out my phone under the table, opened my banking app, and felt my stomach drop at the notification. Transfer complete. $1.8 million to an account ending in 4872. An account I didn't recognize. "Marcus," I said quietly, but my voice carried in the hushed room. "What exactly did you do?" He turned that bright smile towards me. "Dad, you always say family comes first. Jennifer and I found this amazing investment opportunity, a cryptocurrency mining operation with guaranteed returns. We just needed some startup capital." "Startup capital?" I echoed in disbelief. "My entire pension?" "It's completely safe," Jennifer chimed in. "Marcus's friend Kyle runs the whole operation. He's a genius with crypto." Kyle, the same one who convinced Marcus to invest in a marijuana dispensary that never opened and who disappeared with investor money twice before. I looked at Susan and saw the horror dawning on her face as she realized our comfortable retirement had just vanished. We had plans to travel, see Europe, and spend winters in Florida, all gone, transferred to some crypto wallet, likely already moving offshore. That was when I noticed James Morrison standing up, straightening his tie with determination. "Before we continue this intriguing conversation about unauthorized pension transfers," he said, his voice cutting through the tension, "I believe it's time we clarify exactly who owns what at Meridian Technologies." Marcus's smile faltered slightly. "Mr. Morrison, this is a family matter." "Oh, I disagree," James replied, picking up his own phone. "You see, Tom here isn't just our retiring systems director. Would you like to share that with them, Tom? Or should I?" I nodded slowly as realization washed over me. This was why James had insisted on personally handling my retirement package and why the transfer was scheduled for after the party. "Tell us," Marcus demanded, his confidence cracking. I stood up, feeling the strength of 42 years in corporate life straighten my spine. "You want to know about the silent partnership agreement I signed in 1995? I said quietly. The one that makes me the second largest shareholder in Meridian Technologies. The room erupted in whispers, and Marcus's champagne glass trembled visibly. Dad, what are you talking about? James smiled, though it was not a kind smile. Perhaps we should continue this discussion somewhere more private. The corporate security office, for example. I believe they would be quite interested in hearing about unauthorized access to pension accounts. As hotel security appeared at the doors, I saw Marcus's face drain of color. He had orchestrated this perfectly. The public announcement, the family pressure, the accomplice of money already transferred. What he hadn't planned on was my backup plan or the fact that I had spent 42 years building something he didn't know about. Sometimes, the quiet ones have the loudest secrets. The corporate security office at the Westbrook Hotel was furnished with dark wood and leather chairs designed to make people feel at ease. No one felt comfortable now. Marcus sat with his head in his hands while Jennifer frantically texted someone, probably Kyle, who would conveniently stop responding any minute now. James Morrison stood by the window while two Meridian security officers reviewed banking records on their tablets. The transfer was initiated at 3:42 p.m., Officer Collins reported, using Mr. Thomas Reynolds' login credentials. I watched as Marcus flinched. How did you get my password? Your notebook, he muttered. The one in your desk drawer. You keep all your passwords there. Of course, the notebook I had deliberately filled with outdated credentials following the craft brewery disaster when I discovered Marcus had been borrowing money from my checking account. Show them, Tom, James urged. I opened my laptop and pulled up the actual transfer records. The pension fund had never left Meridian's secure accounts. What you accessed was a shadow system we used to monitor potential security breaches, I explained. It's a honeypot, Officer Collins added. Fake accounts we monitor for unauthorized access. When someone tries to transfer funds, it appears successful, but the money actually goes nowhere. Jennifer stopped texting. So the money isn't in Kyle's account? I asked quietly. Kyle's not answering, is he? I added. Probably already changed his number, like he did after the dispensary scheme. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Marcus had not only tried to steal my pension, but had been caught in a security trap designed specifically to identify internal theft. Here's what's going to happen, James said, his CEO voice in full effect. First, you're going to tell us exactly how you planned this, including Kyle's real name and any other accomplices. Dad, Marcus started, but I raised my hand. No, not this time. No more dad to fix things, James continued. Second, we're pressing charges. Attempting to steal a pension fund is a federal offense, and the FBI has already been notified. Jennifer burst into tears. We can't go to jail. What about the children? You should have thought about them before committing fraud, Officer Collins replied without sympathy. My phone buzzed. A text from Susan asking if I wanted her to call Martha, our family lawyer, the one who'd handled the aftermath of Marcus's previous schemes. No, I typed back. Not this time. Marcus must have seen my response. Dad, please, we can work something out. Pay you back slowly. With what money? I asked. The brewery funds? The app investment? The dispensary capital? When exactly were you planning to pay any of it back? He had no answer. He never did. James sat down across from them. The FBI will want to know about those other schemes, too. How much would you say your father has loaned you over the years, Marcus? I don't know, he stammered. Exactly $457,000, I said quietly, having kept records of everything. Jennifer gasped, and Marcus went pale. Plus today's attempted theft of $1.8 million in pension funds, James added, using stolen passwords to access corporate accounts. That's quite a pattern of behavior. A knock at the door interrupted us. Agent Sarah Davidson from the FBI Financial Crimes Unit entered, with two colleagues. I recognized her from corporate security seminars, another detail Marcus hadn't considered. Mr. Reynolds? She nodded. We have some questions about unauthorized access to pension accounts. Marcus stood up, desperation clear on his face. Dad, you can't let them do this. I'm your son. Yes, I agreed. You are, which is why this stops now, before you try this with someone else's family. The children, Jennifer started again. They'll be better off seeing consequences than learning that crime pays, I finished. Susan and I will ensure they are taken care of. Agent Davidson opened her laptop. Let's start with Kyle Thompson's real identity. We have records of him operating similar schemes in 3 states. As Marcus and Jennifer began their interviews with the FBI, James pulled me aside. You know, he said quietly, most people would have just let the transfer go and kept it private. Family shame and all that. I watched my son slumped in his chair as he detailed years of financial manipulation. Sometimes, family needs public consequences. I enabled him for too long, thinking I was helping. Your shareholding announcement got their attention, though, James smiled slightly. Nice touch, letting them think you had hidden power. Who says I don't? I replied, handing him a folder. Check page 3. He opened it, his eyes widening. These stock options you've been accumulating since the IPO. You're really one of our largest individual shareholders. Sometimes the quiet ones pay attention, I said. Speaking of which, that shadow security system caught 3 other employees trying to access pension accounts this month. James raised an eyebrow. Really? Do tell. As we discussed internal security protocols, I watched Agent Davidson lead Marcus and Jennifer out in handcuffs. No more chances. No more enabling. Sometimes love means letting people face the consequences of their choices. My phone buzzed again. A text from Susan sending a photo of our grandchildren safely at her sister's house. They're okay, she wrote. Are you? I thought about 42 years of building something real and honest, about the difference between helping family and enabling destruction. Yes, I replied. For the first time in years, I really am. The next morning, my office was filled with executives, lawyers, and FBI agents. The story had broken in the local business press. Attempted pension theft at Meridian Technologies leads to arrests. Marcus and Jennifer's smiling photos from last year's charity gala featured prominently. We've traced the connection to 5 other pension fraud attempts across the state, Agent Davidson explained, spreading documents across my desk. Your son's friend Kyle, real name Kevin Bradbury, has been running this scheme for years. Targeting retirement parties, manipulating family connections, transferring funds to crypto wallets. And my son was going to help him do it again, I said quietly. Not just help, she corrected. Marcus was being groomed to take over the operation. We found plans for approaching 3 other retiring Meridian executives in the next month. James, Morrison leaned against the window, watching a group of protesters outside with signs reading, "Protect our pensions! Family fraud is still fraud!" The press is having a field day, he said. Fortune just called for a comment. They're doing a piece on familial financial abuse. I nodded, thinking about years of temporary loans and emergency investments. Each time I told myself I was helping family, but I had actually been funding my son's descent into fraud. My phone lit up with a text from the prison where Marcus was being held. Dad, please! The public defender says 15 years minimum. You can't let this happen! I showed it to Agent Davidson, who shook her head. With his prior schemes and the interstate nature of this operation, he's looking at more than that. Jennifer might get less if she cooperates fully. What about the grandchildren? I asked. Child Services are recommending placement with your wife's sister for now. Given your financial stability and clean record, you and your wife could petition for custody. Another text came through, this one from Susan. Marcus's wife's parents are threatening to sue us, saying we should have stopped him sooner. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. James cleared his throat. Tom, about your shareholding position. Yes? I asked. The board is meeting this afternoon. Given your stock options and long-term investment in the company, they'd like you to consider taking a seat to help us strengthen internal controls against exactly this type of fraud. I looked around my office at the box of personal items I'd been packing just yesterday. I thought I was retiring. Maybe, James smiled. You could delay that a bit. We could use your expertise, especially now. Agent Davidson added, having someone with your background helping prevent pension fraud would send a strong message and show other companies how to protect their employees. My phone buzzed again, a message from Kyle Kinn's latest victim, a retiring teacher who had lost $230,000 to the scheme last month. Thank you, she wrote. Your son's arrest helped them freeze our transfers in time. You saved our retirement. I thought about Marcus sitting in a cell, probably still believing I would rescue him. About Jennifer facing federal charges while her parents blamed everyone but her. about my grandchildren trying to understand why their parents were suddenly gone. "The board meeting," I said to James. "What time?" "2 p.m.?" he replied. "We're announcing a complete security overhaul, new protocols for pension protection, and enhanced monitoring of all retirement accounts." I opened my laptop and pulled up the presentation I'd been working on since 4 a.m. Add this to the agenda. It's a complete analysis of how Marcus accessed our systems, where the vulnerabilities were, and how to prevent it from happening again. Agent Davidson looked over my shoulder. "You did this all night?" "No," I corrected. "I've been building this for years. Every time Marcus asked for money, every scheme he tried, I documented the pattern. I just didn't act on it soon enough." James reviewed the slides. "This is comprehensive. The behavioral red flags, financial patterns, social engineering tactics. 42 years in systems taught me to track everything, even when I didn't want, to admit what the data showed." My office phone rang. The prison again. I let it go to voicemail. "They'll keep trying," Agent Davidson warned. "Family pressure is their strongest tool." "Yes," I agreed, "but family truth is stronger." I stood up, gathering the FBI files. "I'll present this to the board on one condition." "Name it," James said. "We make it public, share it with every company in our industry, create a network to track these schemes across state lines. No more hiding fraud behind family loyalty." "That could affect our stock price," James warned, "showing vulnerability." "It shows leadership," I corrected, "and integrity, two things my son never understood." Agent Davidson smiled. "I'll have our cyber division coordinate with your team to build something that helps other companies protect their employees." As they left my office, I looked at the family photo still on my wall. Marcus at his college graduation before the scheme started, Jennifer at their wedding, before she joined his fraudulent ventures, the grandchildren at last Christmas, still innocent of their parents' choices. I took the photo down and placed it in my packing box. It was time to focus on the family members who deserved protection, my grandchildren who needed to learn. That integrity matters more than easy money. My phone buzzed one last time. "Susan. Martha says we can file for emergency custody tomorrow. Ready?" I thought about 42 years of building systems to protect others while failing to protect my own family from my son's manipulations. "Yes," I replied. "It's time to build something better." 1 year later, I stood in a different conference room facing a different crowd. The National Conference on Pension Security had asked me to deliver the keynote address. Behind me, a screen displayed the results of what we built from the ashes of Marcus's betrayal. The Financial Family Fraud Prevention Network, now implemented at over 200 companies nationwide. In the past 12 months, this network has prevented 43 attempted pension thefts totaling more than $47 million in protected retirement funds. 38 of those attempts involved family members. The audience, CEOs, security officers, and financial regulators scribbled notes. In the front row, James Morrison nodded encouragingly, while Agent Davidson smiled. "But statistics don't tell the real story," I continued. "The real story is about what happens when we choose truth over family loyalty, prevention over enabling, and accountability over silence." My phone buzzed silently in my pocket. Probably another call from Marcus's prison. He had been sentenced to 18 years after the full scope of his involvement in Kyle Kinn's operation came to light. Jennifer had turned state's evidence, receiving 5 years in exchange for exposing the entire network. "The hardest part isn't building the security systems," I told the crowd. "It's acknowledging that sometimes the greatest threats come from those we trust the most." After the presentation, during a reception, people kept approaching me with similar stories. A CFO whose daughter had attempted to redirect corporate funds, a retiring teacher who'd caught her nephew trying to access her pension. The pattern was always the same. Family pressure, financial manipulation, the assumption that blood ties would prevent consequences. James found me by the coffee station. "The SEC is implementing your protocols nationwide," he said. "Every public company will be required to have similar protections by next year." Good. I stirred my coffee, thinking about the latest letter from Marcus's lawyer. Another appeal, another claim that family loyalty should supersede criminal charges. "Any word on the Thompson case?" James nodded grimly. "Kyle's operation had tentacles in 12 states. Your son's testimony helped crack it open." But he still did what he did. James hesitated. Have you visited him? No. I had made that decision early on. The therapist said it was better for him to focus on rehabilitation without expecting rescue. My phone buzzed again. Susan, this time with better news. A photo of our grandchildren at their school science fair. They lived with us now, the court having granted permanent custody 6 months ago. In the picture, they were smiling, holding blue ribbons, looking like kids again instead of collateral damage in their parents' schemes. They're healing, Agent Davidson said, appearing beside me. That's what matters most, she added, glancing at the photo over my shoulder. They ask about their parents sometimes, I admitted. It's hard to explain. You tell them the truth, she replied. That's more valuable than any inheritance Marcus would have stolen. The conference continued with technical sessions about security protocols and legal frameworks. But during my closing remarks, I focused on something different. We're not just protecting money, I told them. We're protecting families from their own worst impulses. Every pension we save is a family's future. Every fraud we prevent is a potential redemption. Afterwards, in my hotel room, I finally opened Marcus's latest letter. Dad, the prosecutors offered a deal. If you testify about Kyle's other operations, they'll reduce my sentence. Please, I'm your son. Don't let me spend 18 years in here. I set the letter aside and opened my laptop, pulling up the presentation I'd given earlier. The last slide displayed a simple statistic. 94% of prevented pension fraud attempts came after family members reported suspicious activity. My phone rang. The prison again. This time I answered. Hello? Marcus, he said, desperation clear in his voice. Did you get my letter about the deal? Yes, I replied, thinking about the grandchildren doing their homework at our kitchen table, about Susan finally sleeping through the night, and about the families we'd helped protect through our new network. The prosecutors already have my testimony, I said quietly. I gave it last month, about Kyle, about the other operations, about everything. Silence hung in the air. But they said it would help reduce my sentence. No, Marcus, I responded, firmly. They said my testimony would help them catch Kyle's other accomplices. Your sentence stands. Please, Dad, he pleaded. Goodbye, Marcus. Get help while you're in there. Real help this time. I hung up, looking out the hotel window, at the city lights. My phone buzzed with a text from Susan. The kids want to know if you'll be home for breakfast tomorrow. Tommy has a math test he wants to show you. I smiled, thinking about second chances and better legacies. On my way out, I replied, Tell them Grandpa's bringing donuts later. That night, while reviewing the conference notes, I added one final line to our company's security protocol. The strongest protection against family fraud is family truth. Sometimes the hardest investments aren't financial. They're emotional. The willingness to stand firm, to choose right over easy, to build something better from broken trust. My retirement hadn't gone as planned. Instead of golf courses and leisure, I was building a national security network. Instead of traveling with Marcus and Jennifer, I was raising their children. Instead of family dinners with my son, I was protecting other families from sons like him. But looking at the grandchildren's science fair photo on my desk, I knew I had finally invested in the right future. As I prepared for the next day's board meeting, I felt a sense of purpose. I was ready to share not only my findings, but also my journey. A journey that had taught me the invaluable lesson of integrity, the importance of accountability, and the strength that comes from facing the truth, no matter how painful it may be.